Hello, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Good. Looks like we're good on both. There's no mute on. Audio looks good. Let me make sure my cursor is right there on the middle of my forehead. There. How's that? Is that good? Welcome to today's show. It's cold today. Beautiful. Of course, some of you may or may not know, but I stream with the window open. The right behind you here is the outside world. If I turn the camera around, I get the feeling that it'll short out and you'll watch me for the next 10 minutes try and make it come back on. So I'm not going to do that, but it is outside and it's cold because fall's here. It's November. And isn't that brilliant? You guys are like, holy shit, I had no idea, James. The insight this man is dropping within the first 3 minutes of his show is insurmountable. In fact, I'm noticing in the chat that today's topic probably doesn't... I'm like kind of behind the times, maybe a little bit on that. There's a lot of people in the chat that are always like, oh, dude, I said no to that a long time ago. But no kidney for you, no soup for you, no nothing for you, because you now have vaccine. Okay, now I'm getting racist. I wanted to talk about organ transplants, and the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because it suddenly hit me how insane our verbiage is right now. That the verbiage that we are using to describe what we would tentatively call healthcare, which I don't even think that word fits anymore, is really makes zero sense. And because of what's happening, there are certain things that you and I could do to actually help the system. And here's what's so fucked. I think one of the ways to help the system is to revoke your organ donation. Revoke it. That shit is on your driver's license. You'll see a little red heart. And as you know, we talk about plasma here. And that little red heart makes you feel good. There's been times where you've pulled your license out and you're like, oh, that's nice. I'm an organ donor. I feel fantastic. I'm so proud of myself. And you're charged. I have the same thing. The prana from that felt really good. A childhood friend received a new heart, for example. And that was because of organ donation. That would not have happened otherwise. However, that same person also thinks that because Dr. Fauci went to Cornell, everything he says is valid. So I don't know if the organ transplant thing actually works because of these strange side effects that we get. But doesn't change the fact that we have this default setting in America that shows you that you're a nice person if you blindly agree to give away your body parts, even before you're dead, to an agency that considers you a taint on the earth, a toxic agent capable of administering mass global death if you are not cleansed and baptized in the scientism of 78 vaccines. And that if you have 77 of those vaccines and you're in desperate need of a kidney, fuck you, says this system. And that right now, people are being thrown off the organ donor list because they will not participate in this charade. And that for the next 3 years, none of us know the full effects of any of what's happening now. Even the FDA tells us that. But because it's 3 years prior, you are now going to die, Mr. Person who needs a kidney, because you will not get this vaccine. Additionally, months ago, when you would give blood, there was a screening process. The screening process was very important. It was like, have you had the COVID vaccine? Because if you had, you can't give blood. And you would say, well, why not? It's like, because you were tainted. And we cannot have your tainted blood, your vaccinated tainted blood, in our system because you're tainted. Nor will we give any blood donated from anyone else to someone else who's in need because they are tainted for not having the vaccine. And you start to unravel what we have, and you realize that this has never been medicine. Never. Never, not once has it been medicine. It has been something quite different. And we're gonna see that. We're gonna see that by going here. Where's it? There it is. Let's take a trip on that crystal ship down memory lane and have a listen.
Here are the details that every American needs to know about this plan. First, if you are among the hundreds of millions of Americans who already have health insurance, nothing in this plan will require you or your employer to change the coverage of the doctor you have. Under this plan, it will be against the law for insurance companies to deny you coverage because of a pre-existing condition. As soon as I sign this bill, it will be against the law for insurance companies to drop your coverage when you get sick or water it down when you need it the most. They will no longer be able to place some arbitrary cap on the amount of coverage you can receive in a given year or in a lifetime. We will place a limit on how much you can be charged for out-of-pocket expenses, because in the United States of America, no one should go broke because they get sick. And insurance companies will be required to cover, with no extra charge, routine checkups and preventive care, like mammograms and colonoscopies, because there's no reason we shouldn't be catching diseases like breast cancer and colon cancer before they get worse. If you lose your job or you change your job,
Oh my God, I've been muted. You guys even watching? Did you cut the stream off? Missed call, muted, sound, you were muted. Pantomime, James George, sound check. Yeah, I've been muted a long time. Are you guys even watching? I don't even know if I should go on now. That's been a long time. Fuck, that's been a long time. Let me see. I get caught up, you know? I need health care. Let's see, are people even watching? Let me jump back here. Well, shit, now Restream's closed. Damn, guys, I'm so sorry. 12 minutes? I've been muted for 12 minutes, says Melanie. That's nice. Sound. Well, you've been telling me for a while now. Oh, God. 15 minutes, she says. Okay. So the show's probably over. That's cool. I probably deserve that. Let's see. I don't even know if anyone's watching. Fuck. Sorry, guys. Why am I saying sorry? I don't even know if anyone's here. Let me see. Ugh. Chat. Where's chat? Where's chat? Chat. Open in browser. Ugh. Forgot. Sorry. Fuck. That's embarrassing. Here's Melanie telling me that my sound is off. Sound. Minute 12. Minute 15. 150 in chat. Oh, God. Yeah, sorry. Fuck. Don't spiral, deliver, says James Begg. Actually, James, I want people to see the spiral because I think the authenticity that's conveyed is probably more important than the actual content. You guys, most of you guys are smarter than me. You don't walk around for 15 minutes with your shit muted, you know? And so so I want you to see the spiral, and I'm hoping that you will also see the recovery because it's like I was telling my friend the other day, I don't want perfection, I want resiliency. That we want resiliency from each other, not perfection. These are very different tasks. And your resiliency is your ability to come back from from things like this. Man, damn. Yeah. Did he? Yeah, I'm blushing like crazy. Definitely. All right. All right. Thanks, Debbie. Have a good day at work. I appreciate you watching my silence here for a while. I was talking about how our definitions have changed so dramatically over the years, and I'm trying to get back to this page. Yeah, I was trying to show you this. I was going to read you this. I'm going to read you this. I'm going to read you this. I've got to figure out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. It's a red-green light, but there's so many factors. I was proud of myself that I had to tell Rockfin after I stream, hey, Rockfin, I really would like to stream. Okay, I'll get back to it. September 28th, 2021. What I want to talk to you about is how we change these definitions in midair. The word hospital used to mean something different, but before we get there, let me read this to you. September 28th, 2021. I'm so paranoid I'm not online. I'm online. The transplant team at the University of Colorado Hospital has determined that it's necessary to place you inactive on the waiting list. You'll be inactive on the list for noncompliance for not receiving COVID-19 vaccine. You will have 30 days to begin the vaccination series. If your decision is to refuse COVID vaccination, you will be removed from the kidney transplant list. This is not a single hospital in Colorado. This is actually an Oregon Racket that's running this. That the UC Health Transplant Center actually controls 12 hospitals, not one, and that they are the racketeers for organs. And that these organs that you've already signed up to give, you're not even qualified for. That you being tainted by not having all 78 shots makes you ineligible, but you can still give. You can give those organs all day long, but you can't receive one because of how tainted and bad your system is. But we'll take your organs, but you can't have one. And months ago, when people were giving blood, there was a momentary bow to the fact that if you just had your COVID vaccine, your entire system is jacked. It's so jacked that we don't want your blood. And that not only do we not want your blood, but we can't take your blood for another 2 months. We will maybe take your plasma, but it's going to have to be quarantined for a while. And that same organization now is taking anyone's blood, and they're not asking questions. Why? Because they don't care. Because this system isn't about caring. It's about having that cubicle and having either a check on a sheet of paper or having the lack of a check on a sheet of paper. And that's what healthcare is. It's not the helping of people. It's certainly not the destruction of disease. It's the administration of something that we're calling healthcare. And these healthcare is systems like this letter. It's systems like what we've created now. Rackets. Japan is probably one of the most selfless societies around. They are beaten down from a very young age to absolutely deny the self of all things. The sense of community in Japan is stronger than anything else you'll see. And they don't donate their organs. Not only do they not donate their organs, but they have a completely different definition of what makes someone dead. That you and I in America, we are declared dead when our stem stops to function. Or brain stem, but in Japan, it's when an organ stops. It's the liver, the heart, the lungs. They're different requirements. And that when you enter into an organ contract, you're not entering into anything that has charity for it. You're not. In fact, by signing that, by getting the little heart on your license plate, you are participating in a sacrifice of self to the machine. And that we walk around saying there's no fucking way that 80,000 of us would show up to a festival one weekend and have our heart ripped out and placed on a stone mantle, because that would be insane. But every year, 90,000 of us volunteer for that very same thing. And 10% of us are taken up on that. And that those organs they claim are never sold, but every hospital is billing up to $100,000 for that organ. But it's not sold. It's just the fee that's required to make it happen. And that the very word hospital itself, the very freaking word, used to mean, still means, a charitable institution for the needy. Does F-13 work? No. F-19 work? F-15? Yep, it's F-19. It's F-19. Whoops, hang on a second. Okay. It's F-19. There we go. That it says a charitable institution for the needy. Charitable. And then if you look up charitable, it says freely giving money or help to needy persons. So a hospital is a house of people who are freely giving help to people in need. They're freely giving help. That's the definition. But this happens. This happens. Just Google hospital charge for saline, right? First article, how to charge $546 for 6 liters of salt water. That's actually low. The secret saline cost, why a $1 bag costs $700, advisory board. HC Innovations, get your $546 save-in IB bag. Saline investigation highlights the cost of American healthcare. That you going to the house of charity, where no one sells an organ, but they make $100,000 off everyone they could pull out of you, But that same system, that same place, is charging you, the person they're saying is tainted, that needs 78 vaccines to even be able to be granted the qualifications to receive treatment from the hospital, that same hospital, if you're ever pulled inside, is going to charge you $600 to $700 for a fucking bag of salt water. And you could be conscious. You could drink on your own. You could receive these fluids, but these saline fluids are injected into you because they don't want you to be dehydrated. And it's why I tell you that when a patient goes into a hospital, the reason why they put on a gown that's slit up the back is because you have to be vulnerable. That you have to be opened up to the idea that someone is going to fuck you up the ass really hard right now. And they're going to be doing it from the auspices of being a house of charity. And that this house of charity, although it's going to harvest the organs that it can make from you and sell those to whoever it wants, will not administer care to you in exchange. Why? Because you don't have a fucking check next to your box. And that these aren't hospitals. That's the wrong word, isn't it? It's the wrong word. A hospital is a charitable organization. A charitable organization is someone who freely gives money or helps the needy. Hospitals don't do that. In fact, thanks to Obama, we've eliminated all possibility of even offering charity to each other, because why would anyone give charity when someone's coming and taking money from your wallet every month and telling you it's for charity? How do you get up and be charitous after that? So, is this system breeding charity or destroying it? Is healthcare eradicating charity? Because it is. Because that's what's happening. Now, the ritual of donating your organs is a ritual. And when you follow through, every single part of it that takes place requires you consenting to this event. And when you're consenting to that event, none of us actually know what happens. None of us have ever been in a situation where we were declared brain dead, but still alive. Our system was still functioning enough to where the organs could be harvested from us, and that we were put in a situation where we were kept alive long enough without the ability to communicate, without the ability to share that situation with anybody, long enough for these organs to be harvested. None of us have been able to experience that and then come back. It doesn't happen that way. So none of us actually knows what happens to somebody when they're declared brain dead, except for the Japanese. They say you're not dead. They say that the brain is not a vital organ, nor does it define the essence of who you are. These are the most selfless people in the world. By the way, I don't mean selfless in a good way. I'm talking about evacuated people, people that have socially been taught to evacuate themselves. That even these people don't see it this way. They don't see it this way at all. By the way, those same people, those same Japanese that we declared, well, they tried to attack us in World War II. Has anyone thought about how asinine it is that we believe that Japan, being the size that they are, having the forces they have in comparison to ours, knowing our allies, knowing all those things, decided that they needed to attack Pearl Harbor because they wanted to invade America? The kind of shit that we're telling each other now, we're not even trying anymore. It's not even an effort put out. And you're looking at a system that's ripping its own heart out. You're looking at a people that are sacrificing themselves because of that same virus called selflessness. that the virus of Wetiko is the virus of selflessness. That Wetiko is the psychopathy that the Native Americans saw living inside of white people, these race of people that were injecting themselves with the pus of animals because they feared an invisible demon, and that they were wandering around through this new land, these fearful, they were so scared they were white, fearful, herpes-ridden men with unsurmountable instruments of mass destruction at their disposal. A wanton lust for manifest destiny. And you're looking at the modern day Vikings, that the Vikings of old who were, and I know a lot of us like to romanticize Vikings, which fine, go ahead, I'm not trying to stop you, but if you really look at what was going on, it was a bunch of fucking drug addicts doing mushrooms, climbing on the shore and just raping people. Just like, yeah, let's go fucking kill them. And whatever it was that they needed to tell them, it always came down to, this is our spiritual quest. That we are marauding for Christ. The Crusades is something that is not necessarily specific to Christianity. Actually, if you really look at Norse mythology, you're just looking at Christianity and drag. The whole Odin story is basically Christ. As we keep utilizing charity and religion and righteousness and pretending that those are the things that guide us, that is God guiding us, we will keep ending up with someone like Barack Obama pulling this kind of stuff on us. And every time you try and complain, the comments are going to be turned off. Now, if you haven't done this already, I would like to recommend that you maybe consider checking on your organ donation status and seeing if that's something that you even agree with. You can go to this website, Health Resources and Services Administration, and you can click on the state that you want. I live in North Carolina, and by clicking on the state, it takes me to North Carolina's website, which is donatelife.org. And I went through here, and I was able to fill out this, and I was able to simply specify, I do not agree to donate. I do not give consent. Now, that will be on their record, but you don't want to trust a bureaucracy. So the next time you renew your license, you want to take it off of there too. Now, this site and the national site tell you that whatever is filled out on the national site is considered a higher form of consent, so it would override the lower form of consent, meaning your license. But you are dealing with bureaucrats, and these bureaucrats are going to make $100,000 if they think you're an organ donor. And if you're dead, you're probably not going to complain about it. Or, even worse, if you're clinically brain dead but still alive, you're not going to be able to complain about it. Now, this might sound cruel what I'm suggesting, but I really want you to use this as leverage. I would encourage you to make sure that anyone who's in possible earshot of this decision, that you may or may not make, by the way, that they know that if you did make that decision to change that status because of COVID, that it was precisely because of the way the medical industry has acted in the face of COVID. And it's not a surprise to any of you, if you've watched me, that we don't know how many people have died from COVID. We only know how many people were tested for a sequence that was found in their body after they died of hospice, car accident, cancer, congestive heart failure, heart attack, medical error. That everyone who dies under that umbrella would automatically be considered a COVID death if a certain sequence, not a virus, a certain sequence was found inside their body. And I want to remind you all that this sequence, none of us checked before COVID existed. That before we came up with the idea of this invisible demon called COVID, that not once was a COVID test ever administered on anybody, which means we don't know how many people would have came up positive for COVID before COVID existed. And the truth of that is in understanding what a PCR truly is. That you're testing a sequence, not a virus. You're testing a string, a tiny, tiny string inside of what you think maybe might be a virus, and seeing if that's there. And that would be no different than looking through your house for a certain sequence of numbers that might be strewn in any of your computer files, in any of the printed files that you have from your bank. As long as we can find a certain sequence of numbers, it means that you are guilty of terrorism. These are the same tests that we apply. Why? Because you're dealing with a bureaucracy. You're dealing with an organization. You're not dealing with people. You're dealing with a conglomeration, a corpse, a corporation, a collection of people that have deadened themselves in order to feed a centralized machine. A mechanical algorithm made up of the abandonment of people. That's who's deciding where your organs goes. That's who's deciding if you get an organ. That's who's deciding whether or not you deserve health care. That's who decides whether or not you're tainted and evil. That the same witchcraft test that we had long ago is the same test that we have now. The leading experts in the day in Salem, 2 of them were doctors, sat on a board and told the court, "We can tell you whether or not this person is a witch." And everyone listened. "Okay, tell us, this person's definitely a witch. How do you know?" "She's got 4 cats. She's got a fucking wart on her nose. That's a witch." Fine by me. And we have that same system today, and none of this would have been nearly as brutal. None of this would have been nearly as brutal if healthcare was still privatized. I would argue that none of this would have been possible if healthcare was still privatized. It would not have flown. This shit would not have worked. Because a long time ago, when I had surgery, I only know about the saline. I didn't look that up. I had a growth in my cheek. It was like right over this tear duct. No one in medicine could tell me what the growth was. No one could tell me how it got there. No one gave a shit. All they saw was, it has to come out. We have to perform surgery. That's the only solution to this, is we're going to have to cut and peel your face off your skull. And me being the young whippersnapper I was, said, okay, let's do it. And me being self-employed as a computer programmer, I don't have a big medical policy myself. In fact, I didn't have insurance at that time. And before the surgery was offered, I was like, well, how much does that cost? And they said, I don't know. And I was like, well, why would I agree to a surgery that I don't know how much it costs? Actually, why would you guys agree to do a surgery that you don't know how much it costs? What business out there would ever agree to do anything without having an idea of how much it costs? And the reason why no one knew how much it costs is because everyone was paid to sit on their ass and cover their eyes and not pay attention to this thing. And in fact, we have a secret underground layer of coders who will determine how much it costs after this is all over. And these coders will determine this price, and then we'll send it to an insurance company. The insurance company will pay 1/5 of that, maybe half of that, who knows. And it's this nice little beautiful dance where they pretend like they're different and everything else is happening here. But back then, and when I was a kid, and when you were a kid, hospitals were houses of charity. That this is why Tom Cannon Memorial or Diane Costali Memorial Hospital were named after those people. That they were named after those people, that they were teaching hospitals, that they were whatever they used to be, because hospital used to mean house of charity. And these places weren't doing bad. They had giant golden flecked black marble fountains in every lobby. These people aren't suffering. Doctors aren't complaining about how shitty their wages are. That's not happening because it wasn't true. But it didn't matter that it wasn't true because the Witchfinder General at that time, Obama, came in and told you to be scared. He told you that there are people dying on the street right now because hospitals are turning them away from insurance. But that is the antithesis of the word hospital. And look at where we are now. Now, truth of the matter is, hey Crow, the truth of the matter is that we have unearthed, I should say, it's always been here. Article 1, Section 9, writ of habeas corpus is suspended under the interests of public safety. That you're watching the real government, the double-breasted eagle, the double-headed eagle, I should say, whose wingspan stretches the horizon, rise up out of this pit and formulate, show himself. This is a true country. I've been saying for years that countries aren't what we think they are. And I can't think of a better proof than watching what's happening now. That Who, the great owl, is showing you that the apex predator hunts at night. And that you will not see the apex predator. And it's not because the apex predator is clever. It's because it's too painful for you to admit that it's there. You sleep in that forest. The last thing you want to think or believe is that there's an apex predator that only hunts at night. And so we pretend it doesn't happen. And we pretend so much that we buy stories like Barack Obama. Not only do we buy these stories, but we're not actually allowed to comment. Comments have been turned off. So, if you decide to revoke this, I would encourage you to do what I'm doing, which I haven't decided who to write until I found this national site. I want to write them a letter, and I just want them to know that if you guys ever come to your senses about what's actually happening with COVID, please notify me quickly, because I might want to reconsider the status. And I don't know if I would even reconsider that status, but I want these people to know that this is what did it. That for 50 years, I promised my heart to a complete stranger until this fucking government showed up. That it was the government that made me realize that was a bad idea. That giving something precious to me to an organization that considers it tainted and evil unless it has 78 injections is not something that I want to help. That we are fueling and funding the Death Star. And right now, people feel good because they voted yesterday. And they're consenting to this mass psychogenic illness where they get to say, there's no owl around here. There's no raptor at night. Holy shit, I just remembered. Last night I was laying in bed. Windows are open. Not because it's because I'm actually missing a window, but that's a completely different story. It's nice and brisk. It's gotten cold here. Laying with my dog, thank goodness, because he's warm. I don't know what time it was, but I was instantly awoken by this owl. I've never actually heard an owl call like that. I'm probably going to have to tell you it was probably a GHO, a great horned owl. I say that because it was communicating. It wasn't just saying who. It had a it was amazing. And I know I can't convey what it sounded like. In fact, that was the shittiest impression ever. I've probably insulted every owl that might be listening right now. But I want you to know that when that owl went off, I felt it in the back of my spine. Like right there in my coccyx, I felt that hit. I felt that electricity of that voice. And it amplified through my spine. It was almost like the owl knew I need to speak through an instrument that's larger than me. And the power of that hoot just went all through my body. It was like my ribs were fucking antenna broadcasting this thing. It was amazing. It was amazing to be that tired, that asleep, and then that high and that awake, that dilated, like within seconds. It was just stunning. I listened for a while. That was all he had to say. Went back to bed. It was great. That experience shows me that there's a different kind of plasma being transmitted over this Wi-Fi, that this entire world is a giant Wi-Fi connection, that we are receiving data from nature, and this data is downloaded into you. The essence of the experiences that you feel from all these things are inputting valuable pieces of data into your algorithm. And that we spend most of our time inside covering up these algorithms to listen to the machine, to follow this machine. And as you're watching all these people vote, you realize that really what voting is the application of this grease, the insistence that there is no predator at night. And the only way that you could truly sleep under the auspices that there is no predator is by voting voluntarily for the predator you feel most. That the strength of that creature is so pervasive that it shapes your entire life and turns you into a walking, living lie. And you live this lie, we all do, every day, pretending that this beast that we're giving votes to is somehow magnanimous, is somehow hospitable, is somehow interested in the disbursement of charity. But a government that was interested in breeding charity would give less, not more. A government that was interested in humanity, embracing charity, would spend all of its focus not helping people. That's right. Would spend its focus telling people, you can do it. Riding a bike is not that hard. In fact, it's fun. And when you start to ride your generosity bicycle, you will help much more people than we ever could. Because we are just sitting in this fucking chair, arguing over who has and who doesn't have a check mark inside a box. And thank God so many people are losing their job over that. Because what used to be the world was completely unsustainable. And frankly, I'm sick of so many people pretending that illusion is real. And whether it be something as silly as pilfering from the office supply closet, to committing industrial fraud, that we have set up this system where, because we're lying to ourselves so much, a generation ago, we finally decided that we could just lie to each other with abandon at this point. That you'd pass the event horizon where there was no coming back into this first realm we were in. That there is a black hole event horizon that we have entered, where all we can do now is lie. Where all we can do now is just watch it implode. And if you look at the economic system, you're seeing that in real time. It's amazing to watch people say this system is unsustainable. It's amazing to watch that, because it takes a special kind of person to realize that the person who's claiming the system is unsustainable is actually in denial. Because the system has been built on its unsustainability for eons now. Decades, centuries. It's been built on the unsustainability of that. That's why we have an industry called insurance. Every single person that's participating in insurance right now, whether it be as an employer or as an employee or as a recipient, is participating in mafia mob rule. Participating in the idea that enough bad guys got in and made it compulsory that you had to have a certain thing in order to live, to survive, just to go out in the world, required you to buy a product. that the moment that happened was a moment where you're seeing it's already way too late. That you can't call this system unsustainable, because that makes a presupposition that what we have is a system. We don't have a system. We have Predator's mouth. And most of what you're watching happening nowadays, whether it be voting is a perfect example of that actually, is the secretion of dopamine that the gazelle gives itself because it's lying limp. It's not dead. It's just brain dead. It's lying limp in the lion's mouth. It's telling itself whatever it needs just to feel good. And why wouldn't it? Look at the position it's in. And most of us are born inside that mouth. Most of us have lived our entire lives underneath those teeth. And truthfully, most of us aren't quite ready to learn how to stand on our own. Until now. 4.1 million people don't have a job now because of that. 4.1 million people are looking around going, what the fuck am I going to do now? And if any of you are listening, I said that 30 years ago. When I was 25, okay, not 30, but when I was 25, that was when I first went self-employed. Took a while. Wasn't easy. But I knew when I was 25, this is going to be a problem. If you want to maintain your integrity, James, I don't know if you're going to be able to find an industry that's going to let you do that. I had looked in the military. I looked in the restaurant business. I used to love the restaurant business, by the way. I used to love the restaurant business. Just want to do something helpful, feed people. Like providing a place where people eat is like, I think, one of the most charitable things you could do. Why? Because you're helping create this garden outside the home, this place where people connect. You're a neurological agent that's causing a synapse to occur well outside of the faction of the brain that even controls that. You're creating blips on the screen that go beyond you. We don't really value the humanity that each of us gives through the arts, through restaurants, through food, through culture. Those are seen as subsidiary, secondary systems. But the truth of the matter is that that's the heart of it all. That every piece of fashion, that every piece of science, that every piece of dogma, that every piece of technology first has to pass the muster of that restaurant table discussion. The discussion at the bars, that these places are where government has always been. And they're surrounded in alcohol right now. Surrounded. And one thing I noticed right away is that if I wanted to open a brewery, millions of dollars would fall from the sky and say, yes, let's create a house where people can get drunk. But you can't do that for other stuff. You want to create a wilderness school? That's not going to happen. You want to create a conglomerate where we start to look at blood even in a different kind of way? It's not going to happen. But if you want to open a brewery, you're all set. If you want to open a stadium, you want to start another NFL team, right? If you want to start a Tesla company, where basically we're just taking taxes from people and giving it to other people because they bought something from one person. It's no different than insurance. These Tesla battery walls, you're paying for those. I'm paying for those. This doesn't help the environment. It helps perpetuate this idea that this was never sustainable. And it helps make all of us compliant and consensual to it by putting blood on all our hands. Think about what a blood organ donation is. I can't think of you consenting to this system more than promising a conglomerate that used to call themselves a charity, still posing as a charity, selling your organs without giving you a dime for $100,000 a pop, and calling you tainted the whole way and deciding that the only other person that's going to get them is someone that's complying with their system because they have the right check in the right box. It's not medicine. It's not charity. It's not healthcare. All it is consensual mass psychogenic illness, and no one did it to us. We chose it ourselves because we didn't want to face the predator at night. But that predator will keep you alive. When you see that predator, you will feel that in your spine, and it will awaken you more than any government program ever could, more than any live stream, more than any truth, more than any book you could read. The sight, sound, smell of predator will dilate the piss out of you. We should want dilation, but we've been bred to be numb because we've been bred to be selfless. But not so selfless, where we don't consensually offer our organs to the same building that will turn around and charge you $700 for liquid, and not being able to tell you the whole time how much it may or may not cost. When you pull your consent from these systems, you are going to instantly lose a lot of prana in the eyes of others as being charitable. And I want you to have that feeling, because the moment that evacuation starts, when all of a sudden there's not this blind coding of charitability that's bestowed like thank you for your service, that kind of bullshit, you notice that you start to harvest charity yourself. That you notice that there's a lack in you from feeling that way, and you automatically attempt to correct that on your own. And the amount that you correct that lack of charity will be completely determined by the amount of self-fullness that you have. That when you are self-full, you will become more charitable. That those two things are synonymous. And that government's biggest competition is your charity. Your humanity is government's enemy. Your humanity is the antithesis of government. It's the antithesis of Death Star. Do not give your kidney or your heart to the Death Star, please. You will only make it stronger. Consider taking this time to do that today. Tell people why. Explain to them why. Let them know that this is how they're helping right now. That these promises that they're making, these policies that they have, are hurting people, not helping. This is how you make it expensive. And you don't need anyone to change. You don't have to have a crusade. You don't have to, we gotta fucking kill those people because they don't agree with us. No, all you have to do is simply pull your consent. And you pull it in very obvious ways. And you make it as clear as possible as you pull it, why you're pulling it. And use that to find other ways to be charitable. I guarantee you will come up with a way that touches people more than your unvaccinated kidney would ever do. And you don't even know who's going to get that kidney. Nor do you know what they're going to go out and do with it after they have it. Japan has this such an oppressive cloud, I think, that when it comes down to what's inside of their body, it's like there's nothing left to take. It's like this is all that they have left. This is the entire time the only thing that was never exposed to society was this kidney. Why? Because it was always inside of me. That no one ever got to see this organ. And why should they, would say the Japanese. Look at how we treat each other on the street. Look at how much we force and empty ourselves and call it society. And that's happening right now here too. You know that though. So consider that. Think about giving blood too. Think about telling people. I don't know why I would give you guys blood, because you can't even tell me how many people died from COVID and then watch them look it up. Oh, but there's this, and say, no, that's not how many people died from COVID. That you guys decided to munge these numbers and mix them with other deaths. And so now you and me both are now blind because of your desperate concern for how important it was that we get out the right information that you were so focused on making sure that all of us had the right information that you tainted every bit of it, and you hid it from everyone, including yourself. So how could I support that system with my lifeblood? How can I support that system with my equity? And how in the fuck am I ever going to be able to support a system like that with my charity? That wouldn't be charity. That would be self-harm. That would be hurting my community around me. Japan went to war because they were under the impression that if they attacked Pearl Harbor, that the oil embargoes would stop. That the entire economy of Japan was suffering, was dying, because we were not allowing them to trade oil. And that not only that, but we let them believe that all it would take is a small show of force. Nay, we even told them that. And when you start to look at this World War II thing, you really have to peel back these layers. And Japan is helping you do that. Because Nagasaki wasn't hit by a nuclear bomb. Neither was Hiroshima. Both those cities were fully populated within a year. Not only that, there were trees that still stood. Street lights, beams, all of it. It wasn't a nuclear weapon. And you're not going to find anyone in Japan who tells you it was. Why? Because it wasn't real. Who here would know more about what was actually dropped there? Us or them? And to add insult to injury, most Japanese now sign their texts to each other with a swastika. That on the street, this is like a symbol for bye. It's like bye. This is how you end. It's a greeting. The swastika is a greeting. They don't even see the Tibetan symbolism in it. That it completely misses them because that wasn't real. That's what we told ourselves. That we had to be the saviors. That we had to rush in and save us from the threat of COVID. I mean, Nazi. Right? It's the same thing. The truth's out there, but it's surrounded by people who don't want to see it. They don't want to hear a raptor buzzing their spine at 3 a.m. Not going to happen. That's not how they're raised. And that's where we're at. Man, I hate that I ruined the first part of this, but that's okay. You guys have a beautiful day. The website is... well, it was here. This is for North Carolina. But the website is... Well, I'm hoping someone in chat... I can't get back in my browser. But if you Google it, you'll find it right away. And let me know if you do that in the comments. Let me know if you think it's wrong in the comments, actually. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see someone tell me why that's wrong. And please know that, yeah, I have a friend that is still alive today because of organ transplant. I do. And I still believe what I'm saying. Because if you don't make this expensive to be wrong, the system has no reason to ever be right. Like none. None at all. So, thanks for being here today. If you lasted through the 12 minutes, man, bless you. Try not to do that again. All right. Let's get us out of here. Outro. Bye, guys.